up, you guys? So Dani Leigh, who is the girlfriend of DaBaby, if you're wondering who Dani Leigh is, she is the girlfriend of DaBaby. She recently made a song about yellow bones. She actually said men prefer yellow bones, and she made a whole whack song about men preferring yellow bones. I've heard the term red bone, but yellow bone is new to me, and her song was pretty much trash. For the most part, most people agreed that it was trash because it was so divisive. And now, after first deleting her social media, she's returned to social media with an apology. And that's pretty much the only reason I'm covering this. Since she has come out and apologized, I figured I would go ahead and cover it and give my 2 cents. So let's start by getting into her apology.
Hey guys, it's Dani Leigh, and I just wanted to address what's going on with me right now. I think it's super important because I definitely feel super misunderstood, and you know, my song Yellow Bone is what he want. I think people twisted it into thinking like I'm trying to bash another woman, another skin tone. Like, that was never my intention. I wasn't brought up.
So y'all twisted it. Y'all heard that? Y'all twisted it. Y'all twisted her intention. Shame on y'all.
Like that. I never looked at my skin as a privilege. I never looked at me as I'm better than somebody because of my skin tone.
So this is a whole lie. If I can be frank in this video, this is going to be a very frank video. That's a lie. When she said she never looked at her skin as a privilege, when you say men want yellow bone women, that is saying that you have a privilege, and the privilege is that men want you. Now, it's not necessarily a lie. I don't think her song was a lie, but I do think it was a privilege that she was referring to. So for her saying that, you know, she doesn't have a privilege, that's a lie.
Like, I see brown skinned women flaunt their skin all the time in music. Like, why can't I talk about mine? If you look at me, I'm light skinned, I'm a yellow bone. In my opinion, that's just what I am. So it's like, it wasn't something that I looked at so deeply, which I can see why people will take it.
Now, when she says she didn't look at it deeply, that's possible because it sounds like, number one, you know, maybe she's not a deep person. Maybe she didn't look at it deeply because she's not a deep person. And then number two, and I'm going to show some research on this. So if you guys don't like to see facts, you can go ahead and click off the video. But she may not have been as impacted by colorism as people who have darker skin tones. So when she says that she didn't look at it deeply, it might be because it doesn't affect her deeply.
So I understand, and I'm sorry that I wasn't sensitive to the topic when I wrote my comment, like, why are you guys taking it so personal? Because it can be a personal thing to certain people, because colorism is a real thing, so I do get it. But I'm not that. I'm not a colorist, I'm not a racist. I date a whole chocolate man. I have beautiful dark-skinned friends. Like,
now, when people bring up colorism and they use men for an example in dating and relationships, I have some research on that as well about how colorism does affect women, dark-skinned women, more so than dark-skinned men. This is what the research shows, and it's because lighter skin is considered more feminine, and people don't look for a man to be feminine, they look for a man to be masculine. So it does affect dark-skinned women more, and dating a dark-skinned man doesn't mean you're not necessarily colorist when it comes to black women.
And skin isn't something I even see, like, it's not something that I look at, like, you know, so yeah, I don't live for.
Now, I've said this in a recent video. It's impossible not to see skin color. Like, you're not blind. The only way you can not see skin color is if you're blind, and she is not blind. She's not a blind woman.
The internet, because people don't know me, so that's why I thought it was important to speak on it, because you don't know me, it's like, let me tell you guys what I meant by this. So hopefully you guys can watch this with a open heart, a genuine mind, and just, you know, try to get past it. I'm sorry. Again, if I offended people who are truly offended, I'm sorry. And yeah, I'm gonna just keep grinding, keep doing me, keep posting me, and yeah.
Now, before I get into my commentary, I do want to get into some of these comments because I do see some interesting comments. Like Mr. Jerome Trammell commented, "This is not an apology," all caps. He said it's an excuse. Dark-skinned women celebrating their skin complexion is a response to society who see darker skin as unattractive. Hello. It's not the same thing as light-skinned women who brag on their complexion. They didn't have to endure that level of hatred darker-skinned women had to. I completely agree with this comment. When it comes to colorism and even racism, it's about power and privilege, not just two different colors and they did this so I can do it too. It's deeper than that. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I've seen Dani Leigh before. To me, she's ethnically ambiguous, and I didn't know what her ethnicity, her race, her nationality, I didn't know what it was. But for the record, she is Dominican, and apparently she's a mixed race Dominican. Now let's talk about colorism from an academic and a factual point of view, because like Dani Leigh pointed out, she wasn't aware. She didn't know, which means she's ignorant. She was ignorant about colorism. And I want to talk about this article, The Gender of Colorism, Understanding the Intersection of Skin Tone and Gender Equality. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole article. It is a research article, but it just points out the income stratifications according to color in the Black community. And it basically says that light-skinned men sit at the top of the hierarchy with higher incomes than other Black Americans after controlling for other relevant factors. Dark-skinned people suffer at the bottom of this hierarchy with lower incomes than the other gender and skin tone combinations. So basically, it's an ugly truth that lighter-skinned people in America, especially lighter-skinned men, do have higher incomes, and it's likely due to colorism, how people view color in America. Another article called Skin Color and the Perception of Attractiveness Among African Americans, Does Gender Make a Difference?, also talks about the difference in the genders when it comes to colorism. The abstract says, using data from the National Survey of Black Americans, this study develops and tests a theory of gender colorism among African Americans. The NSBA was collected by Black interviewers and includes data on survey respondents' skin color and interviewers' subjective assessment of respondents' physical attractiveness. These data allow for a unique investigation of how skin color consciously or unconsciously influences assessment of physical attractiveness among African American adults. As predicted, results indicate that skin tone influences the attractiveness ratings assigned to Black women in a compelling, monotonic manner. The association is significantly weaker. It's weaker for men. The gender by skin tone interaction is consistent with the hypothesis that African Americans perceive fair skin tone as particularly feminine characteristic. Findings suggest the pervasiveness of Eurocentric standards of beauty among African Americans. So basically, African American people as a whole view lighter skin tone as feminine, and it has to do with our Eurocentric standards of beauty due to colonialism. Like, we have Eurocentric standards of beauty. So when she says Black men want a yellow bone, that's really deep. And like I said, it's not a lie. It's not a lie, and it's really deep. It's deeper than what she said she knew. Now, there's another article. This article contains some research, but it's more of someone's experience. And it's from The Guardian, Shades of Black, Why Dark-Skinned Black Girls Like Me Aren't Getting Married. And it says Black women in the U.S. marry less than others, and the numbers are even lower for darker-skinned Black women. Is colorism, which is favoring a lighter skin tone, to blame? Dream McClinton puts herself on the line to report. Now, I do have a link to all of these articles. I do have a link in the description box. In the article, she says Jasmine Turner, the owner of Black Match Made, a Chicago-based matchmaking company, agrees this affects all Black women. She said, honestly, I think Black women tend to lower their standards because they're finding challenges in dating. Now I'm finding that Black women are like, you know what? As long as he has a good job and he's a good person, no matter how successful they are, they're open to dating him. They're open to dating down. I posted a video earlier today how people were talking about Portia Williams, and it seemed like her standards for the father of her child were like the bare minimum. Like, he didn't even have to marry her first. The standards were so low, they were on the flow. And it's real. It's very, very real. And it affects Black women and their incomes. Normally, a 2-income household would have a higher income than a 1-income household. So basically, if you're married, you're likely to have access to more money. But for darker skinned women who are less likely to get married in America, darker skinned women are less likely to get married. That means that darker skinned women would have less access to money. So this is another article, Shedding Light on Marriage, the Influence on Skin Shade on Marriage for Black female. And the abstract says the interracial marriage gap that opened in the past 50 years is generally attributed to a decline in the availability of black marriageable men. We contend that the associated shortage of desirable men in the marriage market provide these black men who are sought after with the opportunity to obtain a high status spouse, which has placed a premium on having light skin shade. We provide evidence based on data drawn from the multi-city study of urban inequality consistent with this hypothesis for young black women. Our theoretical analysis of the marriage market reveals that policies to increase the desire to marry on the part of young black women will enhance the importance attached to skin shade. So basically that is saying that the more you encourage black people to marry, this is a hard truth, the more you encourage black people to marry, the more you'll see colorism as a factor in selecting a marriage partner. It's a hard truth. It's a hard pill to swallow. It's a hard truth. And that's why I wanted to bring up this article, why one sociologist says it's time for black women to date white men. Now let's look at the numbers. Before we go to that, let's look at the numbers. Using pooled data from 1991 to 1999 drawn from the current population survey, he calculated sex ratios for the civilian unmarried population, indicating that there are 71 black males to 100 black females. So there are not enough marriageable black men to start with. And it says while there are 119 white males to 100 white females. So white women have a surplus of white men to choose from, but yet black women have a shortage of black men to choose from if they're going to date within their race. And that is why one sociologist says it's time for black women to date white men. And you see a lot of this even on social media, on YouTube. You see women talking about how it makes sense numerically. Just by the numbers, it makes sense for black women to consider dating outside of their race just because the numbers are not in the favor of black women. If white women have a surplus, it makes sense to cross over and get that surplus of men if black women have a shortage. That's just going by numbers. It says right from age 16 and forward, black women start outnumbering black men. For whites, that doesn't happen until age 32. As a result, if you don't think about dating outside the race, then you might very well wind up single. And it's a hard truth, but that's what the research is showing. And even in entertainment or even politics, let's start with politics. When we talk about colorism, like it doesn't pass me. It doesn't go over my head that both Barack Obama and Kamala Harris, the two black people or mixed race people who have held the highest presidential and vice presidential offices in our country, have been mixed race. They've been mixed race people. Barack Obama is mixed race and Kamala Harris is mixed race. And they're both lighter skinned people. Like stuff like that doesn't go over everybody's head. People do notice it. Even if everybody is not talking about it, people do notice it. And colorism may very well play a factor in that. Just like if we go into entertainment, like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette this year, they decided to have black or mixed race. They decided to go for a black bachelor and a black bachelorette, but they're both mixed race. Matt James is mixed race. He's a mixed race person. His mother is white. Tayshia Adams, she's a mixed race woman. And so these things are not coincidences. Even in the Netflix series, the fictional series Bridgerton, which I really enjoyed. And throughout the whole movie, I was waiting for a dark-skinned woman as a love interest. There was a dark-skinned woman in the movie, but she wasn't necessarily a love interest. And she was actually single. She was an older black woman that was single. But as far as the women who are presented as love interests on the show, as marital partners, as possible wives and future wives, you only saw mixed race black women. You only saw lighter skinned women. So going back to Dani Leigh, what she was saying about he wants a yellowbone, like I said, it's not a lie. It's not necessarily a lie, but for her to revel in that fact is uncalled for and disgusting and ignorant. That's my opinion. Leave a comment and leave your opinion. As always, thanks for watching.